Hi everyone, I'm Anthony. I went to IU, graduated in 2021. I started a media company a few months ago, so I figured why not get a few clips while I'm speaking here talking about international business and stuff like that. But I came out of college, I worked for Anheuser-Busch for 4 years, kind of all because of Erica's class that I took in 2019, her D272 class, which introduced me to the company, and I ended up working there for 4 years. Last year was my last year with the company. And earlier this year, I started my own media company, which is centered around Italian culture and the Italian diaspora in the world. So it's basically cultural niche content creation and digital marketing. And I'm happy to be back at IU. It's always a wonderful place to return to. You guys will feel the same way when you're out of school to come back to a place you called home for a long time. So thanks for having me, and looking forward to the discussion. Yeah, I mean, from the point of view, like, I think that's a guarantee. If you ever work cross-culturally, you're gonna run into culture shock, no matter what culture you work with, no matter what culture you're from. I definitely feel like just ways of working are completely different in different places in the world, and you have to adjust to that. Like I always tell people, it's good to go in prepared. You wanna go in understanding what you're getting into. And although sometimes that will lead to some stereotyping behavior, what I mean by that is if you're going to work with a certain culture, it's good to research beforehand what some of those common characteristics are of the culture, what are things that people respect in that culture, what are things they don't respect, how do they act, because that will help you when you walk in there to not look ignorant. And unfortunately, a lot of times, Americans are seen as being ignorant walking into other cultures because other cultures tend to cater to us, to our language, to our way of life, because our media presence, our cultural presence is all over the earth. English is kind of the common language in business and a lot of other things. So when you can walk into a situation and show that you have some cultural awareness and empathy, like Eric always says, you will get a lot more respect and have a lot higher chance of success. I would say a lot of things. I would say the number one thing is just getting the experience. Like, nothing can prepare you for the real world. Obviously, you learn a lot of great things in school. You have a lot of great experiences, which I'm sure most of you have taken advantage of. And once you get out of Kelley, you will notice, especially on the international end, how much better we have it than almost any school in the world. We have the opportunity to travel everywhere, learn about so many different cultures, have such a diverse student body that a lot of other places just don't have the funds for or the opportunities within. But I would say just getting the experience sometimes is the biggest thing. But the preparation comes from, like I was saying before, I think it's understanding what you're going into. Like, if you know what your internship is or you know what your job is, what are some skills culturally that you may need to work with an international team, and tailoring it to that? Because it's not a one size fits all. It's not like, well, I'm gonna, go into a Chinese company, right? Or a company that does business in China versus a company that does business in Brazil or does business in Germany. It's completely different. So you have to understand kind of what am I going into? What does my business do? Who do they work with? Kind of figure that out. Maybe if you speak the language of that particular role that you're gonna go into, that's obviously helpful as well. But I would say, like, just be prepared. Always be over prepared. I think the number one unexpected thing that you can also find in a corporate role, but I think you find even more when you start your own company, is that work never ends. There are no weekends. There are no days off, nights off. When things need to be taken care of, they need to be taken care of. Financially, administratively, it's on you, especially when you just start and you're new and my only employee is myself. I have to take care of everything, right? I don't have someone I can just say, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? I may not know how to do something. I don't have a choice. I have to learn how to do it. I have to figure out how to do it. And a lot of times you may be sitting there for hours on the phone trying to reach someone from customer service for a particular service you use in your company that you didn't build into your schedule that day, but you have to take care of it that day. So there's a lot of unexpected things, and the fact that it's 24/7. I know it sounds scary, but at the same time, on that note, you also are flexible to set your schedule because you really get to choose when you work for the most part. However, especially starting, you're gonna be working a lot more than after you've established a business maybe for 20 or 30 years. So I'd say that's the thing people don't think about, is especially when you come out of a corporate role. And I'm not saying corporate roles you won't be working weekends, because it's always a possibility, but it's almost like the traditional is like you have your weekends off, whatever. Like probably one of my most productive days is Saturday. So, which will sound like what the heck? Yeah, but it's true. But then on my weekdays, I can build other things into my schedule. I think moving anywhere is a huge change. I just want to point out, you guys still at IU, like still in college, this is the easiest place, or the last easy place, more than likely, to make friends. Once you move and you get into adulthood, life gets busy, things change, you move to a city or a country where you may not know too many people. You will find ways, of course, to meet friends and make groups, but you have to make a lot more effort. Here, I mean, you have what, 45,000 undergrad and grad students all within basically 20-30 minute walking distance of each other. That's not necessarily going to be the case when you go into the working world and you possibly move to a city where you don't have family, where you might not have any friends, which was my case. So you have to figure out activities that you like to do to meet people in those. You have to make the effort with people at work. Like, do you want to grab a drink after work or whatever it may be? You really have to make a lot more effort. Your friends aren't just going to fall into your lap because you're in a fraternity or a sorority, or you're in a club, or you're in a class like this, or back in high school, you know, you lived on the same block as a lot of these people for 10, 12 years. So you just have to be a lot more focused on that. And it's not impossible, it's not scary, it's just, it requires more effort, for sure. Yeah, I think the main reason for me was that I realized that I wanted to be my own boss. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, something that I always saw growing up. And so, you know, I was for 4 years working in a corporation that obviously maybe if things had went better, I would have stayed longer, or maybe stayed for a good portion of my career. But I realized that I liked being in control of what I'm doing, but also being really passionate about what I'm doing, feeling a purpose and feeling a sense of fulfillment. And also, this is a thing I feel like a lot of us, I mean, we come out of Kelley, we're typically higher achievers in our industries, and sometimes it's hard to keep people in this room challenged, and you get bored. And that's kind of what happened to me as well. So I think it was kind of a mix of those things. And my customer base is global. It's all kind of centered around like Italian culture in the world. So it's all people under one kind of cultural umbrella, but on a global scale. So there is cross-cultural aspects to it, because, for example, if you have someone like me who's of Italian descent born in the US versus someone of Italian descent born in Brazil, like, we're going to have fundamental differences just because of where we grew up and our native language, for example, but we'll also have a lot in common because of our cultural background. So it's a really cool thing to make those connections, but to also bridge the gap over the differences. But yeah, I would say the main reason is that I wanted to be my own boss. I would say now more than ever, you have the ability to build a business at a very, very low cost, because there are so many tools that are available that are either free or cheap that can help you build your business that you used to have to pay for before. I know everyone's like, oh, AI. Yeah, like literally. Like, you can pay $20 a month and use an AI tool that used to cost you $2,000 a month, with the combination of a lot of, you know, different services that you can all have in one. Requires you to learn a lot. It requires you to pick up a lot of skills. However, I think that today more than ever, if you are looking to start your own company, like, obviously try and bootstrap it, and know that at first, like, it's gonna be rough riding. It's not gonna be like you're gonna start a business and in 2 seconds you're, you know, for example, like me, making more than what you're making in your corporate job. That's just not typically feasible. How many of you in here would consider yourself curious people? Well, that's good. That's great. I think what it ends up becoming is this, like, an addiction of you're in this international business world, right? There's cross-cultural experiences all the time. You just end up getting more and more curious about everything. You want to learn more and more about every culture. You want to learn more and more languages. You want to learn more and more ways of life. You end up, you know, surrounding yourself with more and more people from different places. And I think it just continues to build. It's natural. Once you're in that world, you don't really want to get out. You just want to build on it. So you want to actually go in the other direction most of the time of, well, I know so much, but I have so much more to learn. And so, especially, us being young, still extremely early in our careers, there is an extremely large amount of information out there, an extremely large amount of experiences to have. And so once you start there, it's fun and it's exciting. It's different every day when you get to experience that. Whew, that's a hard question. I think from my point of view, I would say building and creating are super important, especially when you're young. And what I mean by that is whether it's within the role that you take at a company or it's within your free time, I think creating whatever it is, products, services, content, something that you create yourself that you're passionate about, that you could possibly monetize someday, which that's not how you want to think about it at first, of course. It's just a passion and it may turn into something, but making good use of your time as well outside of work. And that doesn't only just mean building like a company outside of work, but also building skills, because that may help you in your next corporate role or in your current role, or if you end up, again, building your own company someday. I think we live in a time period where you have so many tools, like I was saying before, available to you at no cost or a low cost to create. And that has a compound effect over time. So for example, you guys are familiar with social media, right? If you constantly create content, if you find your niche, and if you build that, you guys are what, 21, 22 years old? In 5 years, you have 1,000 posts in a specific niche. You'll have thousands of followers, right? And those are monetizable followers. You could also learn something from that. That could also help you meet people. Maybe you just build it for fun, but then you move to a new city and maybe 10% of your 3,000 followers, so 300 people, live in Chicago. And then you move to Chicago and you already have people you can reach out to. So I think building and creating can help you in your personal life, can help you in your career. It can also help you with an exit strategy from your current role if you ever need it, into another job or into your own business. So I think you guys are young, you have the energy, build and create. You're super smart, you're in Kelley, you're one of the top 1-2% of this country in your industries. Build, create, and set yourself apart. That's a great question. It's definitely a passion of mine. I speak, obviously, English, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, French. And I learned a number of those languages. Like, I'll give a great example. I met Erica back in 2018 taking your D270 course, and then took the D272. And I spoke zero Portuguese, and we obviously just communicated in English. Nowadays, we only communicate in Portuguese. So it can change your relationships completely with people. And in my opinion, like, it's fun. That's like a fun aspect too. But I would say the process of learning languages nowadays, I feel like I keep repeating myself, but there's so much available to you. The tools at low cost or free online. Like, everyone's gonna want you to pay big amounts of money to like learn a language, or even taking courses at a university, which, again, I know we're saying some like risky things here, but I would even suggest staying outside of the educational system to learn a language. I think you're gonna take too long and pay too much to learn a language within the educational system when you can do it on your own. If you have consistency, if you're passionate about it, like, you will learn it fast. And once you pick up one and you know the process, you will add another one much faster even. Yeah, I feel like Portuguese is the most fun story. So COVID hit and I was a senior, and most of my classes were online, probably similar to you guys in high school. But obviously us for university, which kind of was unfortunate, right? You're sitting home while you're in your last year of school, but it is what it is. That was COVID. And I decided to take some of my free time. And at that point, I already spoke 2 other Latin languages, which were Spanish and Italian. So I'm like, okay, I kind of have an understanding on like how to learn a language. And I speak, of course, cousin languages within the same language family. So to be honest, I think with like full transparency, I was probably on Duolingo for about 45 minutes a day for like 3 months. And then, which is basically what Riley was saying, kind of getting your background and like just structure of the language and some basic vocabulary. And then from there, just content consumption, mostly YouTube. Like I would literally attribute a grand majority of learning Portuguese to YouTube. And but the important part was being consistent. I spent between 30 minutes and an hour, I'm not kidding, every single day, weekends included. Like in that probably 9 months where I went from zero Portuguese to like what I would call fluent, because I was able to be conversational with just about anyone. Fluent does not mean perfect. Fluent means you can communicate with anyone. It doesn't mean you're gonna ever speak the language perfectly, because it's always a learning process. But if you really put in the hours and you really want it, you could do it for free and that quick. So obviously it depends what language you come from. I wouldn't be learning Arabic in 9 months. Just gonna call it that. Different alphabet, all that stuff. But and then once you do that, then like I applied that to French, and like you start having this understanding of the process of how your brain works. It's almost a psychology experiment. I wanna do a little quick thing to get you guys involved. So everyone close your eyes, and literally in 10 seconds, just whatever comes off the top of your head, I want you to think of one moment in your college experience that has kind of changed the course of everything. And just think about it quick. It should come off right off the top of the head. Could be personal, educational, professional. Okay, open your eyes back up. I'm gonna pick 3 of you to tell me quickly what that is. So first off, let's start with Julianne. What was yours, if you don't mind sharing? That's amazing. Kudos to you for joining that as well. All right, let's do Tyler. How about you? Awesome. I also studied in Milan. Great, yeah, great experience. Thanks for sharing. Let's do Jonathan. Awesome. Well, best of luck on the Spanish journey, and sounds like you're far along. So, but yeah, thank you guys for sharing. I think it's in the moment, you can notice some of those big things that, change the course of your college career, even change your personality, maybe a little bit, or change your view of the world, change a skill that you're picking up. But I had that moment in Erica's class, and I didn't notice it until so many years later, because I took the course D272 for 8 weeks. Then we traveled to Brazil, and we did a case competition with the branch of Anheuser-Busch in Brazil. I came back, went to a career fair. I looked for them at the career fair, spoke with someone there at the career fair. That person ended up helping me through the entire interview process to get an internship, to get into the training program. And that same person opened a role in Miami, helped me kind of backdoor my way into that role to move to Miami. A former IU grad, about 3 years older than me. So I didn't notice that one moment of taking this course would lead me to where I live, would lead me to a lot of the career that I already had, and then also the fact that I speak Portuguese now as well, that I had the introduction to Brazil and the interest. So I just want you guys to take advantage, especially you guys that are graduating, of even your last few moments of college, because this is the end of one chapter and you're moving into another exciting one. But just remember that there may be moments that happened here or that will happen in the future that in the moment seem like nothing. But then 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line, the choice that you made to go to Milan instead of Barcelona, that might fundamentally impact your life. You might be working in Italy in 3 years, who knows, right? You might work for an Italian company. You might have knowledge that you got from there that you wouldn't have known any better. Same with you. You decided to pick up Spanish, right? You might end up having coworkers or being, like I was in a certain case, a de facto translator for your team, and that may help you advance in your career faster. And with you, the ability to take someone who's introverted and to be able to be a little bit more social, get yourself out there, that could help you in the interview process, and that might help you get your dream job. So I think those little things seem really little in the moment, but remember that they can be big. So take advantage of them and enjoy your time.
Anthony, if the media thing doesn't work out, I think you can also be a motivational speaker.
Noted.
It's true, yeah. Many languages, yeah.
True.